Welcome to our EduSmart Professional Development Series. We are very thrilled to have you here because we know that this is the best way to spend your Friday after work evening is hanging out with all the cool kids over here with us. So thank you all so much for joining us. As a few of us are trickling in right now, we have a few more people coming in. I just wanted to take a moment to properly introduce myself and kind of give you a rundown of how everything's going to go today. My name is Devanshi Mathur, and with me is Mark Dunk here. Mark Dunk and I are Paula Noe's sidekicks today. So we'll be helping her out in the background, monitoring the chat room, helping people in, responding to your email. So if you have questions, you want to be engaged, by all means, please use that chat room. Mark and I will be monitoring that. I also know that a lot of you love Paula Noe's presentation style and want to watch her present even after this presentation is done. So after this presentation, tomorrow morning, you'll be receiving a recording of Paula Noe's presentation as well as her slide deck. If you're interested in receiving a certificate of participation, just reply to that email and I will make sure you get your participation certificate. And with that, you'll have the recording so you can listen to Paula Noe all day long and hear about your choice boards. For those of you who don't know what EduSmart is, this is your first time around. Since 2007, we here have been passionate about supporting teachers and students by providing standards-based content designed to engage students, help support teachers, and help make learning science fun and memorable for all of our students. A little bit about Paula Noe. Paula Noe is an experienced consultant who works with education tech companies, regional service centers, districts, campuses, focusing on all the areas of interface user experience, instructional coaching, and innovative professional development aligned to best practices. During her 21 years in education, she has served with the district's associate superintendent's office, as an instructional leader for improving teacher and administrator effectiveness. She has also served as a curriculum writer and a professional development presenter. She is known for her engaging speaking styles and very innovative ideas. So please, if you could give your biggest round of applause to the one and only Paula Noe.
Yes, Devanshi, thank you so much for that great introduction. And I always love how you slow down when you talk about how many years I've been doing this. 21. Goodness, that sounds like such a long time. But that's a lot of at-bats. That's a lot of swings at the ball. So hopefully I've hit a few out of the park during that lifetime of mine. But one thing I know for certain is that if you keep practicing and you surround yourself by good people, you get better. So today's presentation is on science digital choice boards. I've chosen EduSmart to be a partner of mine because it simply does this. It makes us better. I can use this in any sort of setting to come in and to make the situation better. Whether I'm coming alongside of a master teacher, whether I'm mentoring a new teacher, whether I'm coming along into an area that doesn't have much science background or experience at all, EduSmart makes us better. So hopefully you will catch a love of the product like I have, and that perhaps there's something that I can share with you today that you can put in your toolbox and use along your journey. So without further ado, Mark, thanks again for helping support the presentation. We're going to go ahead and get started. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put that for me in the chat or any comments. We'll be monitoring that as we go, and off we go. So digital science choice boards, why on earth would we use them? Well, they're fairly new to us in fifth grade, fairly new to middle school, but this whole idea of voice and choice has really kind of erupted inside the classroom and giving kids options to choose some learning elements that might push their learning even further or bridge the gap on things that they don't understand or know completely. And so I've just outlined just a quick 7-point thing on what are some of the benefits. Definitely ease of use because they are digital. They can be used synchronously or asynchronously. Definitely, if you are doing this for the first time, I would encourage you to do this synchronously with your class. You could even set it up as a warm up, that you do a choice board as a warm up. But asynchronous would really be the way to go because I think it maximizes your face time with your kids because they can do the learning in a flipped classroom situation. Choice boards can be formative or summative. It just depends on how you want to leverage them for the outcome you're trying to achieve. They definitely can be flexible. You could have daily entries, or you could have a summative collaborative effort towards one big outcome. Choice boards build a variety of skill sets for scholars, and it actually causes them to pause and think about how they want to learn a particular topic or how they want to practice or be reinforced on a particular topic. Choice boards definitely allow for choice and expression if you build it in, and they allow for relevance and rigor if you build it in. So make sure that you take those 2 points into consideration as you build your choice boards for your class. And they're very easy to progress monitor. I had a boss once that said, "What gets monitored gets done." So it's part of that positive outlook that we have on monitoring kids is that that is what allows us to come into a relationship with them, to respond to their data and their thinking, and to be a part of setting the floor and pushing the ceiling when it comes to their learning. So if you have any comments about that, go ahead and put that in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and move to some format options. By all means, by no means is this an exhaustive list. It's just one that I came up with for the training that I think it keeps it pretty simple and to the point, that gives you a starting point to go on your journey with choice boards, but it also allows you to be able to move your choice boards into a more rigorous situation. So first, one way that I like to do choice boards is very random, but I keep it about one topic. So the topic might be rapid change for the theme. So I'm going to say topic is also a synonym for theme there. Another way would be comparison when you're posing against two opposing themes, such as slow change and rapid change. We know our kids struggle with trying to identify that. We know that's very important in the Texas standards, that they can differentiate between the two based on visual representations as well as descriptive ones. And so that would be really good to pose those against each other in a choice board. You could have a mystery choice board where there's no titles or hints. You simply get what you get when you choose a box. You could scramble the topics. You could have a playlist of topics. You could vary the game in a tic tac toe format that not only do they have to get 3 in a row, but maybe they have to make an X, maybe they have to make an L this week. Maybe next month's theme is to make the letter T in whatever position you would like. So it does give some choice, but it also gives some structure to some kids that may get in a habit of always choosing the same choice. So it gives them some choice, but it remains flexible for the teacher to actually push some support. You could have a completely wide open student choice board, or you could structure it based on the column and the structure of the board. Random versus visuals on the left, assessments in the middle. Maybe you push literacy off to the right, or you could be creative and make the creative side to the left, the gaming in the middle, maybe, and the instructional modules from EduSmart on the right. So I know that's been a lot of talking. Let's get to some of the showing. I'm quickly going to go over some topic suggestions as you move forward. If you haven't already taught earth science, landforms would be really, really good to do asynchronously for these choice boards. Rapid versus slow change, weather and climate, living versus non-living, structure function, the slow changes, maybe opposing weathering, erosion, and deposition. Also good to be thinking about what kind of review you're going to put in place to touch back on these points that you've already taught throughout the year. So a spiral review is always great in a choice board. And then there's also a choice board that can be very visually literate. So I will flesh out what I mean by that as we move forward. So I'm going to stop real quick. Devanshi, do you have any responses, or Mark, do you have anything I need to respond to?
So far, no questions, but just a lot of hello and love.
Hello and love. I love that. So let me move forward. Teachers love getting free things. So something that you're also going to get with this presentation is that you're going to get all my slides. And I'm giving you 3 choice boards already set up. So you should be smiling at that. So 2 are fully fleshed out, and then 1 is a template. I'm also sharing that these templates that I used are completely free and found on the World Wide Web. So on the internet, I simply got the templates off of YouTube and put them into the presentation. So let's see it. Here's sample 1. It's going to be a Tic Tac Toe choice board. Devanshi, are we good there?
Yep.
Good, moving forward. Basically, let's just go over what I put on the choice board, and then I'm going to select some things, and then I'll show you the supporting slides that come in after it. So on this particular tic-tac-toe choice board, I'm going to show you that it has a teacher guide on the next page on the slide. So this would be something that you would leave for your students, but you would modify. I'm also going to give credit to Casey Bell, because in Shake Up Learning, Casey Bell gives you this for free, but she gives you the template for free, but I customized it just for you today. So this is where your kids would click to make a copy of the choice board that you can use inside of Canvas, or that you can use inside of your Google Classroom. So let's go ahead and look at some things that I chose for this board. Vocabulary Explorer used by EduSmart. So here is where you would link to the directions. So I'm going to go ahead and click here. And I simply put a link in from EduSmart. So let's go look at what this Vocabulary Word Explorer, which is a new item for EduSmart this year that's super fantastic. Let's go look at it now. So I'm going to click on it. And it's going to take me to that. And here we are.
Select a flashcard to learn more about the science term. Once you complete the activity successfully, the flashcard will flip over and reveal the formal definition.
Okay, so that's how the Word Explorer works. So I'm going to go ahead and click out and go back to the choice board. And then I click this button back to the choice board, and it sends me back to my main page. So if you're very familiar with choice boards, just pardon me as I go through it for some people on the call that may not be as familiar with it. But I think that you can see the themes and why I chose what I chose. We have a vocabulary piece. We're going to have an assessment piece here. And let's look at the visual literacy piece right here. So the visual literacy piece is something that I created. I just named it Odd One Out. And it says, which image is the odd one out and not an example of a slow change to Earth's surface? Label each image as slow or rapid. So I simply found some visual literacy pictures, put them on the page, and then created a text box underneath. And so the students would actually type in that text box. And save it. So if you're in Canvas, then they would take a screenshot and upload that into it. Or if you're on Google Classroom, it will read it straight from the Google Slides, because I will be grading each student's Google slide presentation. So that's that. Let's go back to the choice board. Let's look at narrate a story. So obviously you can tell visual literacy is a passion of mine. Just another reason why I love EduSmart. This particular image is just an image of mine, but I'm going to ask the kids to narrate the story below. I'm doing a training shortly on responsive instruction to student data. This would be an example of how I would respond as a teacher to what the child puts in the box. If this child struggles with narrating the story of what this is actually a picture of, whether it's a slow change or a rapid change, and what caused this, what is my evidence over time, then I know that I would need to support on a grassroots level based on the child's response. If the student can respond with a fair amount of academic vocabulary and can nail the answer, which is a slow change, correctly, and then correctly name this landform that's due to the slow change and tell me the story, beginning, middle, and end on how this was carved, then I would feel very confident the student has mastered this expectation. And then we know that our kids fall everywhere along the way, from grassroots to mastery. And that's how you would figure this out, and you would respond to it based on the data. So I'm going to go back to the choice board, and let's look at the instructional module. So for me, IMs, instructional modules, and student reviews are the meat and potatoes of EduSmart, because they really come alongside of a teacher and enhance the teaching experience, whether it's first teach, or whether it's a response to data and reinforcement, or whether it's an intervention piece. It gives the students a different way to see the same words that you've used. It gives students a different way to hear the story that's completely aligned to the standards. So let's look at one. This is called instructional module, erosion by water. So I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to go find it real quick. So give me a second. And here we go. So I'm going to play a piece.
The surface of Earth is made of different landforms, such as mountains, valleys, deltas, and canyons.
So the thing that's great about these instructional modules is that you can already see, if you're not teaching with visuals and stories to help kids connect the learning, I think that that is a space that you can step into and become stronger at. And when you become stronger at your craft of connecting the learning from just words, stories, and literacy, all the way through the visual literacy to the intention of the questioning, I think that you'll find that your kids are able to make great gains. I love the pictures that EduSmart uses. I love the fact that they come alongside these concepts and name them, as well as annotate at the bottom for our struggling scholars. So that's a taste of the instructional module. So I'm going to go back here and continue on with the choice boards. But first, I'm going to ask you a question. How do you see a win for you using a choice board? How do you see it right now in your practice? What are you thinking about choice boards and how they can be a win for you inside your own practice? So let me respond to a few people in the chat. So we're just going to go back and forth here for a quick second. So Adriana, I'm going to go ahead and talk to you while I'm waiting for some of these comments to come in. So yes, the students would need to sign into EduSmart because what you're going to notice is all the assignments that I've put in these choice boards are links. So they link directly to EduSmart pages for that child, so you can capture that data. So great question. So I hear from Debbie, great way to differentiate, absolutely. And you can differentiate without using the word differentiation, because sometimes people see that as a negative connotation. It's really a positive way that we need to think about our learning, and that it's one way that we can come alongside the child and fill in the gaps and help the student be able to have more of a voice and a choice in filling in their own gaps where they feel strong and confident, or where they might feel insecure. Student picks choices, student ownership. I'm seeing all good things. I agree with these things. Allows the teacher time to work. Absolutely. I am a big believer in having high yield asynchronous activities for the kids to do. you never know how many boxes of choice boards they're going to pick. Sometimes you'll say a minimum is 3, and the kids will actually do 5, but then they'll turn in 3. So I like that because we never set a ceiling on learning. We give the kids options and time and choice. All right. Well, let's go back to the presentation. I'm going to keep monitoring the chat. So let's look at a couple of other ones. Build it or sketch it. This is an obvious one. Build a model or sketch out a drawing of land being eroded by wind. Attach a picture here for your work. So this is a simple choice that they really, really like. Here's a gaming one that I put in from Quizlet. Let's take a quick look at that. So Quizlet is an online vocabulary quick generator that allows you to do a simple input and output. I think most kids are familiar with Quizlets. It's free to use. And there's many different study modes. As you see, there's flashcards, learning, writing, spelling, and an assessment. And then what the kids really love are the games, match, gravity, and live. It also reads it to them. So super important. So that's one way I would have them practice their vocabulary after they did the word explorer. And it also gives this this ability for the students to participate in gaming. Okay, so let's go back to the choice board. So word explorer, instructional module, we have the assessment piece from EduSmart, and we've got a journal entry. So let's look at the journal entry real quick. So this is copied straight out of EduSmart, and I put on here so you can capture it. Figure it out. A certain area suffered soil erosion by wind. And you can see, how do you think these measures help to prevent soil erosion? So you're asking them to piece together a story to tell you how to answer that particular journal entry. And then it's very similar on activity 8. Tell the story of how Earth's surface changes slowly by erosion. So make sure that your story to your students always demonstrates in a total body response way what is a rapid change and then what is a slow change, and that they know the story of the expectation, because that way they can piece together their learning with the key vocabulary, the literacy, all the way through to the visual literacy. So I'm going to move forward to the next slide. So these are all the supporting slides, and this is how it looks when it's built out. And so here's the next sample, sample 2. Devanshi, are we good here? Yep, Devanshi says we're good. So moving forward to circuits. So you need to know, in the state of Texas, circuits needs to be your best friend. You're going to get about 3 circuit questions. They're going to be complicated circuits. They're very visual, and they're asking the kids to actually interpret the circuit and tell you if it's open or closed, how many devices are on, how many devices are off, and what you need to do to turn on more devices or to turn off devices. So it's definitely multi-step thinking, higher order thinking skills. And the only way to get there is to specifically practice. So the thing that EduSmart does that's super fantastic is it plays this out in a visual format. So we all know that one thing teachers have struggled with are the lab investigations and the simulations. Well, this is not called a simulation inside of the instructional module and student review. It's just how EduSmart teaches. And because they teach and instruct in a very visual way, of course, they're showing you circuits, and they're tracing the path of energy surrounding the circuit and telling you the story of the circuit. So you will find, once your kids start to use EduSmart, that they will become very visually literate and very story oriented, which is fantastic, because we want them to be able to apply those stories of science to unknown situations. So let's look here at circuits. Choice number 1 will be the student review. So I liken student reviews inside of EduSmart. They're a strong version of the instructional module, but instead of a click and progress, it actually stops and forces them to forces them to answer a formative question. which I can use as data to get back and respond to the student and where they're at in their learning. But I love it because it holds the child accountable for staying focused and on target with the learning and what's playing on the screen. So let's click here to review a student review for electricity. So are we good, Devanshi? We are good.
We're good.
Every time we watch television, use the computer, or listen to music, we are using electricity. What is electricity? Electricity is a form of energy. The electricity that makes all these devices work is called current electricity, or electric current. An electric current is a flow of tiny particles called electric charges in a closed path.
So you see right there, it goes straight from basic information into a lab simulation image, which is the visual literacy piece of that concept, right into a question to make sure that the student is focused in and building on their learning and participating with us as we're showing these visuals. I also like the fact that it gives a drop down. So it does give some support, but it doesn't show the support straight up because we want to challenge the kids to already be forming their own answer. If they can as they go. So super duper activities here as student reviews. So it's your choice as a teacher whether you're going to assign a student review or assign the actual instructional module. These can be assigned synchronous or asynchronous. They can be assigned in real time for first teach to help beef up your first teach, or they can be in response to your teaching more as a spiral review or used simply for daily activities. So moving forward, let me come back to my screen on the choice board. So I'm going to go back and hit the home button here. And you notice that this one only has 6. I think I would recommend that when you start a choice board that you start with something like this with fewer choices, and that you get kids used to. This can be 2 for 1. You can also expose your students to EduSmart through the choice board to get them used to it. And you could also do it whole group. So you could be modeling what a choice board does and how it feels and how it moves and maneuvers. You could be modeling EduSmart and getting used to EduSmart as well. And then you could be modeling how they interact with the choice board. So actually it's a 3 for 1. That would be the way that I would start choice boards in my class before I assigned them out into the asynchronous part. And you notice that I also picked here for a word explorer. Let's look at the circuit fixer. So that's another EduSmart option for you to assign out. Sorry, I moved my text box over. Here we go. Let me see. And I think I hit the wrong one. So be patient with me. I'm sorry. Here we go. Did it go? Devanshi, is it spinning? Are we good?
That's all good.
Okay, so here we go.
Finally, in this circuit, a switch has been added to control when we can turn the light bulbs on or off. The switch is in the on position, but the light bulbs still do not glow. What is wrong with the circuit? Select the component you think is causing the bulbs to not glow.
So I like this because remember in the initial conversation that we had, we talked about adding rigor, finding places to add rigor. This is a good point just to stop and ask children, what do they think is going to happen? Tell me where we are in the story. Tell me the story of how the energy is moving in this circuit. Is this a circuit? Is it not a circuit? right? And so this can be a great conversation starter, even though it's in a choice board. So don't forget to continue to use all of your best practice tools as you use these choice boards and as you think about using EduSmart or allowing EduSmart to come alongside of your teaching, because it simply gives you the opportunity to let EduSmart do the heavy lifting by finding the images, the stories, the visuals, and then allows you the freedom to spend your time on your craft, which is your expertise at engaging kids, creating conversations, and responding to what they say and what they need to be able to do. So I'll move forward here. Hang on just a second. So let's get back to where we are. Okay. All right. I'm going to go home. So that's a circuit fixer. Let's look at what visual literacy I picked out for this one. So the visual literacy I picked out for this one is simply this image. And then I'm asking 3 questions. And so the students would need to answer each of these questions. Read the circuit. Which devices are on if I close switch number 2? Which devices are on if I close switch number 3? And which devices are on if I open switch number 1? So very, very rigorous question. As March Madness is approaching, I suggest that this definitely would be a 3-point question because it's quite rigorous. Kids like making connections to sports and current events. So I would almost call this a March Madness question to get kids into you could even do opposing groups trying to answer this question and see who's going to score first, and then how many points. Are they going to get a free throw? Are they going to get a shot off? Are they going to get a 3-point shot? So this would be an example of the visual literacy that I would choose for this particular topic. And let's move back to the choice board and see what I said with question it. So question it, I just titled it because I want to use another similar image. I would definitely tell my students that all of these devices and switches are actually connected. Even though the image might show a little bit of gap, these are all sitting on conductor wires and they are all connected. Because I know that you should have some student that will point that out clearly to you. Then you can applaud their detailed learning. We're very thankful that they're paying attention to what makes a conductor work and what allows a conductor to not work. So study the image below, create 2 questions to ask over this image, and type your questions in the text box below. Why this is important to me is we've just modeled what good rigorous questioning is. So once I set the floor for what good rigorous questioning is, and then I expose them to something like this where I'm asking them to create the questions, generally students won't come in with a really low ball question. They come in at least at my level, if not even more rigorous, because they like to get me. They like to get others, and they like their question to be very hard. And that's what I've noticed about students. So I think it's important that you set these next to each other and that you set the floor for what would be an acceptable question. So let's go back to the choice board and see how I closed it out. And I simply closed it out with an assessment piece here to complete the quiz below. And EduSmart also comes with assessment questions that can be used formatively or summatively. And so I will share that now. It always starts with a lower level question, what is electricity? And it will show the correct answers and explain why is it correct and why is it not correct. So let's move forward. Going back to the choice board to finish up, and then I'll show you what else I have for you. So sample 3 is a different background. I call it roll and review. This would be a simple one that you could do with a child that has a dice. They could roll the die and see which one it rolls on, then that's the one they have to do. This would be a good teammate one that if you were on a call, if they go into a breakout room, you have a person doing the rolling of the die, and then they select what teammate has to do what choice based on what the dice says. So always a fun way to do it. And you have a super challenge question. Maybe this choice box gets more points than the other. Simple way to set it up. And you noticed I just linked it straight to the word choice, but another free template. And then last, we're going to finish up with student performance tasks. This one is super dear and near to my heart because at the end of the day, it's not what just the students need to know. It's what the students need to be able to do. And that piece is really where we have to get students all the way through the learning process to the doing part. And so this would be a great summative assessment piece that the students have to put in. Let's say a video explanation of what a complete circuit is, telling me the story from beginning, middle to the end. Maybe they have to do a quick write on a visual that I put in there over what a circuit is. Maybe they have to make an application to a new situation, something out in the real world that is actually a complete or a closed or open circuit. I would probably put an experiment in here that maybe I would walk them through a video experiment, or I would use the EduSmart circuit fixer right here as the experiment, because we always want to lean on EduSmart to do the heavy lifting. The students could make a model, or they could draw a model if they're not around resources to do that, that could mimic the EduSmart resource that was provided. And then I would probably finish it up with some visual literacy questions to cement the deal, just to make sure that we nailed it all the way to closure with an 80% mastery rate or higher. So I'm going to pause there. I've been very, very busy talking this whole time. So I want to hear from you. Talk to me. We have some people on the call. Devanshi, do you have anything in the chat? And if not, I'm just going to interact with some people for a quick second.
Let's see. As of now, we have nothing, but I feel like people are typing.
They're typing. You feel it.
Feel it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to wait for that. And I'm also just going to kind of open it up. If somebody wants to turn on their mic and talk to me, engage with me, I want to see what your thoughts are. You can be new to EduSmart, or you could be an expert at EduSmart. If you have any questions for me or any questions about choice boards in general.
While
so Thomas, are you on the call? Can you talk? All right, so I'm going to answer April. April, you say that you're a newbie to EduSmart. What grade levels does it cover? It covers K through 9, so that's all the way through biology. A huge compliment out to EduSmart is that never have I heard of a digital resource that is said to be maybe too rigorous for a large urban district. So at the biology level, I greatly appreciate that. So much so that a large urban district finds that it could almost completely replace First Teach because of the thoroughness at which it was built and the rigor. So speaking to K through 8, I've used it at grades 3 through 8 myself personally, and those are the levels that I use it inside of districts all the time. I definitely know that K through 2 has been very appreciative of EduSmart's presence in science, because in general, K through 2 teachers have greatly struggled with doing any sort of lifting when it comes to science demos and aligned science instruction, definitely during COVID inside this digital market. So EduSmart has really set itself apart when it comes to supporting K through 2 instruction. It's in Spanish K through 5 and very aligned to the Texas standards. It's aligned to the Florida standards, and it's also aligned to the NGSS standards.
Thank you, Paula. We have a question from Jennifer. So what do you use, Paula, to make your science choice boards? Do you use Microsoft Word, or do you use other tools?
I used Google Classroom. So Google Slides is what I use. So that's what the free templates that came with that are in this presentation. They are all Google Slide templates, but you can download that or convert that to a PowerPoint and use it there as well. So it's a simple link that you can grab from EduSmart when you're inside of EduSmart, and then you just copy the link onto the PowerPoint slide or the Google slide, and then put it into whatever presentation you need to put it into. So great question.
Tasha's asking, this is only accessed with the purchase of a license, correct? I'm assuming accessing EduSmart.
Correct. So unfortunately, it's not free, but nothing great is generally free. So I would say that of all the resources that I have access to, this is the one that I can flex in the most spaces and that does the best heavy lifting for the teacher and for the student. Once students are trained on how this supports their thinking, teachers can really dig in and elevate their questioning inside of EduSmart visuals.
Treasurer Lynn, I hopefully that answers your question of do you need an account to set up? Do you need to set up an account? Yes, you do. Nadia from Laredo ISD says she loves EduSmart. They use it first grade through fifth grade. Also, Slides Mania has a lot of free templates as well.
Perfect. Thanks for that tip. So know that inside the presentation, all the slides do have the supporting slides right behind them. It's very easy, and it's very easy to link back to that main page because I know students and I know teachers really like things that are already packaged and put together. That's why I went ahead and built out 2 for you to use as is if you're EduSmart customers. And if you're not, you can simply sub out the EduSmart slides, but I think you're going to notice pretty quickly that when you sub out the pieces that I chose, you're going to want to buy EduSmart for the very reason. So I'm so glad that I got to show you a little glimpse at what EduSmart does. So think of that heavy lifting aligned to every standard, not just the readiness standards for 5th and 8th grade, but the supporting standards that maybe during a pandemic year, you didn't have so much time to spend on, but really create that foundational thinking that goes with that readiness standard. Think about that and think about that already being packaged and done for you in a way that children cannot mess up, that would guarantee you success to the depth of thinking that's required of you by your state, which is also, in my opinion, the overall thinking is this. EduSmart helps you provide an equitable resource in teaching for science because it doesn't leave things to chance that may have been lost in the shuffle, that may have not been taught because of a pandemic year. EduSmart provides a kid equitable access to science based on all the information that they're going to need in order to be confident and supported moving forward. Think of it that way. So when you think of it as an equity piece, it really should pull at your heartstrings and at your professional strings, because I think that's what we're called to do. So, so Todd, yes, EduSmart is for science only. Thanks for speaking up there. Yes, you do need an account. You can buy an account for your class. You can buy an account for a grade level. You can negotiate an account for your campus. And I think what you're going to find is once you explain how EduSmart does the heavy lifting when it comes to this, telling the story of the standards and the lab engagement pieces that perhaps are missing and simulations, I think it's an easy sell for a principal to come alongside of you with this purchase. So let these salespeople and these reps know how they can be of help to you as you communicate with your instructional coach, your principal, or any leader on your campus. Maybe it's as you communicate through your PTA. Whatever you need, they're there for you. They're very, very responsive as a company. So last call, any questions for me? Any questions for EduSmart as we prepare to sign off? So who would you email to get a quote? You can email Mark Dunk. He's on the call, or Todd Watney right now. I think that they can reach out to you. They're on the call as well. So thank you for putting that in there. Please put in the chat if you would like one of the sales reps to reach back out to you and have a conversation on what a quote would look like for your campus. Also, we have Jerry on the call and Ava on the call from Florida as well. So we will be responding to the chat. We will save the chat. Devanshi, how we doing? We good?
We're doing great.
Okay, I think I'm going to sign off for my piece. Let me give this optimistic closing to you. And then I think for everyone on the call, the EduSmart people will stay on the call in case you have any very specific questions for them. My job, I feel, is very aligned to my calling. And my calling is simply this. I want to be a difference maker for kids. I want to be a difference maker for families and the communities that we live in. For every kid to be able to say yes to science because they feel confident and they have the skills in order to be put into situations that they can grow in their science learning, that they can grow in their science knowledge, and that they're very successful. People like to do what they're good at doing, and it's my privilege to be in the science profession and to be a part of that story. So I want to say thank you for you, because I know that all of you signed on to be difference makers too, because you're in education and that's what we do. So thank you so much for being on the call. Thank you so much for being in education, and just thank you for showing up. Because I know that we are frontline workers. We are very essential workers to our community and our country. So thank you so much. And I've had a great time. I hope you enjoy and have a great day. Bye, guys.